So you want to do something big. You want to make an impact in the world. You want to have a successful business, but you just feel like there's something holding you back that you don't really think is possible to change. So I'm going to give you the 4 things that I did that really helped build my confidence, because I think you're going to be surprised that it's nothing what you think that it is, and literally anyone can do it. Hi, I'm Jenny. Welcome to my channel where I help Christians close the gap between head knowledge and their daily experience with their heart. The number one pushback that I get for people that are afraid to make new businesses or to start a YouTube channel is because they don't feel like that they have the confidence or the personality to be able to be on camera or to do things like that. But the truth is that it can actually be learned. And if I can learn it, anyone can learn it. I started off so awkward as a kid, and I just have never been a naturally charismatic or charming person. These are all skills that I actually built and learned in a very specific way, and I'm going to give you those same ways to do it because I believe that there is success for you. I believe that it's not what you think that it is. You think that people are drawn to you because you have some sort of intelligence or beauty or whatever, and that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, I used to have a client and she used to say, "Jeannie, I may not be skinny, but I'm friendly." And I used to always think, oh my gosh, you're so right, that people care about how bubbly and cute she is because she's friendly and she makes them feel a certain way. And it's not about being impressed with her looks. Now, she did really good job of, makeup and hair and jewelry and things like that, but she was a heavier lady, but nobody cared. Literally nobody cared. And so many people feel held back from doing what they want to do because of their inconfidence about their body or their looks or whatever. But the truth is that people don't really care about being impressed by you as much as they care about how you make them feel. I had this other client, and she was always super snooty and talked down to me like a bad waitress. And she would always go on and on about like her purses and her vacations and, all this wealth that she had. But everyone that I knew that knew her felt like repulsed by her because she was so uppity and better than you. And then some of my clients that were actually way richer, that were down to earth, people all just really loved and enjoyed because they were just enjoyable. And so this one lady was stuck in trying so hard to impress everyone because I think subconsciously she thought that that would make them be drawn to her, but it actually did the opposite. And so it's not about how smart you are, how beautiful you are, how confident you are, all the things that you know. It's actually about making people feel known and cared about and loved and related to, and that you're not perfect and that you don't have everything together, and letting people see, like, kind of like what I say, your soft underbelly. If you're a porcupine and all they can see is the spikes on the outside, they're going to be intimidated. They're not going to feel like they enjoy being around you or with you. You're going to make them self-conscious. But if you just be real and you be relatable and you make them feel known and cared for, they're going to be drawn to you. Because in the age of AI, all the information is there. Everything's available nowadays. But what's not available is the human experience. Someone being able to say, oh, I've been there. I've walked through that. I can tell you exactly what that feels like. That feels scary. That's overwhelming. That's tragic. Like, we have gone through things as humans and experienced the emotions of those, the hardships of those, the thoughts and the beliefs behind those in a way that a robot and AI will never be able to. And that is something that for you is your superpower. The things that you've overcome, the things that you've walked through, the things that you were able to describe and put words to that other people are currently walking through and they need help with. And in that, God has given you solutions. Maybe he's made you a business idea out of those things, that pain point that you've walked through. I recently saw something and it was like a digital mommy's helper that would go on and like clear your inbox and make a meal plan for you and just work for you a couple hours a week doing some of the things that us as moms are on our mental load and is so overwhelming. And I thought, that's a fabulous business idea. That a mom came up with that. That a mom that was overwhelmed and struggling was like, it would be really helpful if there was an agency that did this. And so because of your pain points and the things that you've walked through, you can have the solutions. God can show you a business plan or even a YouTube channel that helps with the solutions for these pain points in a way that people that have not experienced this would have no idea how to do it. Many people actually think that it's shame and fear that's driving them away from confidence because they're just reluctant or they feel bad, but it's actually not that at all. You're going to be shocked when I tell you what's actually driving your inconfidence. But first, I just have to tell you how bad it was when I was young. When I was younger, I was always kind of chunky and overweight through elementary school years. I thought that black was my favorite color, maybe slightly goth. Okay, guys, I was just very awkward. I didn't really know how to relate to people or be friendly, so I was just kind of quiet. I had a very flat affect and I just didn't show much emotion. We're not going to talk about that right now, but I just didn't want to have a lot of joy in my life because I was desperately afraid of being disappointed. So I guarded myself with apathy and sadness. But as awkward as I was and as weird as I didn't draw many friends. Imagine that. In fact, there was this season that I tried to sit with the cool girls in the cafeteria in intermediate school, and they straight up gave me the cold shoulder and didn't talk to me. And what's sad is that it took me 3 days to figure it out. It took me 3 days to realize that they were giving me the cold shoulder and not talking to me. That's how non-intuitive that I am with people. Here's the problem is that I became a hairdresser. And hairdressers sit with people for prolonged hours. And you know what awkwardness does when you're sitting with someone for prolonged hours? It makes everyone want to leave, including me. Okay, I just want to run. My client wants to run. They don't want to come back. So I actually had to learn how to be friendly. And I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. This is exactly what to do. Are you ready? You ask people questions about themselves. That's all you do. People love to talk about themselves. They love it. And then you listen to them and then you ask them more questions. Hey, what do you do for a living? Really? What does that involve? Do you have kids? How many kids do you have? What ages are they? Are they boys and girls? Are they in sports? People love to talk about themselves. And then when they leave, because they've just talked about themselves, they feel so great because they're like, that was so nice, because people want to feel known. They want to feel heard. They want to feel cared about. And the best way that we can make people feel heard and known and cared about is to learn about them, to care about their experience, to empathize with them. If they're going through something hard, use validating statements. Wow, that's really hard. What does that feel like? Man, that's heavy. How did you get through that? And asking people questions. Literally go to a coffee shop and ask someone a question. Ask someone a question, and then when they answer, ask them another question. And you just keep asking people questions. In fact, I took this class one time, and it was like how to be like more charismatic. And they gave these statistics, and they said that they did all these studies, and they found that they actually find, like when they polled these people after these encounters with other people, it was intentional, that the people that came back and gave the feedback that their people were the most interesting, like, oh, this person that interacted with me was the most interesting, were the people that asked the person questions about themselves. And so the person asking the question, they felt like was more interesting, even though they didn't learn that much about the person. That person was asking about them. They thought that person was so much more interesting because they themselves talked about themselves to the other person. Isn't that odd? So people actually think you're more interesting when you ask them questions about themselves. Who knew? You want to be interesting? Ask other people questions. So step number 1, friendliness is a skill that you can learn. The first hairdresser that I worked with, she had an autoimmune disease and she stood on her feet for long hours. And I was always like, hey, how do you have so much energy? How can you just stand for hours and talk and do these things? And she looked at me and she had said something I will never forget. She said, I fake it. And I was like, what? You can fake energy? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, man, I had no idea that you could fake energy. Did you know that you can fake energy? And so basically you fake it till you make it. You can fake friendliness, you can fake energy. But the thing is we have something riding in the background that's like pulling at us to not be friendly and to not do that. And it's really because we're kind of scared of putting ourselves out there. And we're scared of putting ourselves out there. And many times we think that that's because there's like shame holding us back and we don't think enough of ourselves. But it's actually the opposite. It's actually pride. What, Jenny? What do you mean it's pride? Well, why do we care about how they see us? Why are we so concerned about what they think about us? That is actually pride. It's not shame. It's pride. Listen, I can do one-on-one all day, but don't put me in a group setting with people that I don't know. I get super awkward. I don't know what to say. I clam up. Okay. And so I just have to pep talk myself and I have to be like, Jenny, it's just your pride. You just care too much about what people think and you just need to humble yourself and just love on them. It's not about you. It's about other people feeling loved on. Nobody cares what you look like or what you've done or any of those things. They care about how you make them feel. And so your job is to go in and to love on them and to be friendly and to serve them. And when I can get into that mindset, I can overcome whatever internal hindrance barrier that I have of wanting to run away from social settings. And I focus on the one in front of me. I focus on loving them, asking them questions, hearing them, making them feel seen and understood. And guess what? That builds relationships. And when you build relationships, you have a more successful life because you're filled with joy and peace and connection. You have more successful businesses because people want to come and buy from you and purchase from you because they trust you, because they feel known and seen. Also, they want to support you because they feel like you care about them because you do. And so you being friendly and learning how to love other people and serve them will result in your own success. But you're not doing it for your success. You're doing it to love them and to serve them. That's what you're sowing, and you reap the consequences of that loving others. It's a biblical principle, I feel like. And I know you're thinking, but Jenny, what about being on camera? That's not asking any questions. Correct. Let's talk about how hard and how awkward that is. When I first started my micro venue, it's whenever Instagram had just kind of come out, or it was relatively new. And so I knew that if I wanted my micro venue to be successful, because I literally came up with the word micro venue years ago, and I thought I have to teach people, especially in this local kind of small town rural area, what a micro venue is. And so I have to get on reels and I have to be able to say, hey, this is what this is how to use it, da 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 da. And I knew that people like to buy from people more than they do blind brands. And so I would get on there and I would create a reel, and then I would watch it and I would cringe so bad and hate the sound of my voice and hate what I looked like that I would delete it. And so I had to do it, make my reel. Hi, this is Jenny. Welcome to this micro venue downtown. You can use this for sure. And I would have to just hit post without watching it. I could not watch it because if I watched it, I would cringe so badly that I would delete it. And, I had to realize that that was my pride, that I was caring way too much about how people perceived me, that I was like rejecting myself because I'm like, oh, this is so bad. I just cringeworthy. Just don't even. And I had to just post it anyways. And did you know that there's an actual type of cognitive behavioral therapy that makes you do things that you're scared to do so that you learn through the experience of doing the things that you don't want to do, that you're okay, that you're going to live, that you're not going to die, that it's going to be okay. And so basically I was doing my own cognitive behavioral therapy, basically making myself do the very things that I dreaded doing. And I did it so often that I got used to it. And I was able to start seeing my own reels and not die on the inside. And so you can actually make yourself do something that you don't want to do. And what you do is you end up learning from that, like, I'm okay. And so in that you get used to it and you start building confidence. So basically it's just making yourself do the thing that you don't want to do, being friendly, putting yourself out there, videoing yourself, those sort of things. And you can learn through that, making yourself do it. And I'm not natural at this. I didn't just wake up one day and get on camera and be able to be myself without saying a script and being very, perfect and saying the right things, right? Like, it's hard just to be yourself, but I'm able to do it because I've had years of practice at it. And so you just have to start. You just have to start doing it and start filming and start getting natural and start putting yourself out there and dying to self, dying to pride, that it's not people's opinions of you that matter. It's the Lord's opinion of you. And your heart needs to be aimed towards serving others and loving the Lord, loving them, and showing up. And being okay with being misjudged. Jesus was tremendously misjudged, especially by the religious. Do we remember that they're the ones that nailed him to the cross? Like, he was accused of having a demon and being of blasphemy and all these things. And he was literally perfect. And so if God himself, who came in flesh and was literally perfect, was accused of these things, then we who are very imperfect, if you're anything like me, are definitely going to experience that too, which is fine, because how could God who's perfect experience it and then us who's imperfect not experience it? I think it's just part of the process is learning to let people misjudge us, learning to let people wrongly think of us, and instead having our identity and who he says we are and having our heart right before him. Because many times when we're defensive or we're reactive, it's because there's some piece of it that we actually think is true. For instance, if someone came up to me and they were like, Jenny, you're just way too skinny. I think that you're anorexic. I would balk at that because I'm definitely not way too skinny. But if it was something that even had a hint of truth, it might bother me. If someone came up to me and they were like, Jenny, I think that you're a little on the heavy side, I'd be like, that would bother me because I am a little on the heavy side. And so it's actually our pain points that people are pressing on that we react to. If we don't believe it's true at all, it can have no effect on us. So being accused gives us the opportunity to look in our hearts with the Lord and be like, why does this bother me? What about this is triggering something? Where's this root going to? That is there like a root of shame in my life? Is there a root of fear? What is actually being pressed on right here, Lord, that you want to uproot and free me from so I can walk fully with you and not be held back? Can you imagine if we all walked fully in who God created us to be and just had our eyes on him and didn't care about the world, just were able to love the world and be ourselves and be who we are? AI would stand no chance against real people that are authentic. So as we step into these amazing things that God actually has for us, this life filled with love and identity in him and confidence stemming from who he thinks we are and from loving and serving others, I believe that that's where we can build the thing that God wants us to build, and we can build the life that he has for us. And so if you want help with figuring out a business plan or something to do, check out the link below. I have an amazing resource that will help you figure out who God made you to be and what he made you to do.